Do all schools have to have Common Core and college career ready standards? I think so. I don't think any of them do. Closing the achievement gap, we bring this up because it is at the center of the world's best workforce. The achievement gap will never be closed by a growing number of standardized tests, prep testing, and preparation for prep tests, which is the hallmark of all of that. This is the Minnesota World's Best Workforce timeline, straight out of the Department of Education for local school districts, and they were told to adopt it. And they did. And the official announcement from the Robbinsdale schools of March 7, 2014, this week the School Board of Robbinsdale Area Schools approved a new strategic plan designed to increase the academic achievement of all students. The plan, which is called Unified District Vision High Intellectual Performance Through Equity, was developed after a year of collaboration among employees, students, families, and community members. This strategic plan is the world's best workforce, word for word, rebranded under a new title. Okay, let's take a look at some other things. We're going to look at the what, where, when, and who of Common Core. Common Core is just one of the many iterations of the original Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the ESEA of 1965. All of these reforms are roughly the same. They are just a continuation of the same act. New standards were devised nearly every 4 years, and you can see a lot of names up there. Unfortunately for our students, the achievement gap, under countless reforms and more regulations and billions of dollars over all these years, has only widened. Why do we continue with failed educational policies? How did we come to adopt Common Core? It originally came through the stimulus bill in 2009. To successfully compete for the Race to the Top grants, states were required to submit their documents and accept Common Core at the same time. The Common Core standards had not yet been written at that time. They hadn't even been started. Did you know about Common Core in 2009 when it came into the state? I didn't. Did you know about it in 2010? The bulk of the parents, teachers, and administrators, and even school board members that we have talked to only became aware of Common Core in Minnesota last summer, last May, and I'm sure there were some before that. But I talked to numerous teachers last summer. They had no clue. What are you talking about? It was a very, very secret implementation. Here's a flow chart that links all of the 4 areas of reform identified by the Race to the Top. You can see this is it's a little complicated. This is at the national level. Over here, you have your textbook companies. You have Achieve, the 2 national consortia. Mark Tucker, who was a big workforce person in the early 90s with the Clintons, Goals 2000, some of the older reforms. And then here we have our grants, the stimulus grant right here, Race to the Top, and some others. Up here, this is our teacher reforms. And then down here, wow, databases, Database City. We've in one, look at this, a technical working group. All of these are databases, some at the national level, and one at least at the global level. So there's a lot going on here. Education experts. These are some of the who's now. Who's behind it? So who has been writing policy, setting standards, writing curriculum, and generally in charge of our schools? Let's focus now on our education experts. Here we see the Race to the Top gurus, our grant writers, our ed school PhDs, our think tank thinkers. Have they ever been inside a school? Our foundation analysts and our advocacy advocates. Even our U.S. Department of Education Secretary has no background in education. Yes, 50 years of bureaucratic and now corporate and nonprofits have not improved our schools. Let's give them back to the parents and teachers and gain back our local control. So these are some of the who's. So we wanted to parade out these education experts who are now running our schools. Common Core was adopted at the National Governors Association annual meeting. NGA is a private, non-elected lobbying organization. Taxpayers pay thousands of dollars per year in dues for the governors to belong to the NGA. And their sister group, the CCSSO, these are the state commissioners of education, state superintendents. They are also a DC-based group, unelected lobbying association of state superintendents of schools and other state and local education administrators that lobby Congress and governance agencies. Gates also gave millions of dollars to the CCSSO, as well as the NGA. And there's their logo. Here's something that's pretty amazing to me. A kid who was writing standards back a few years ago at the state level. Can't imagine this. This is a public license on the Common Core standards. The standards, in fact, are copyrighted, making them the first set of standards to be copyrighted since the beginning of the standards movement in the 1960s. The standards are amendable only by the NGA and the CCSSO. They can change them however they wish. This is a huge loss of academic freedom and parental and teacher voice. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, some more of the main players. He and Melinda have given $164 million nationwide for school reform in the U.S., $5 billion across the world. And as well, Pearson is heavily involved in this. Gates has given money to Pearson. It's a relationship we see going back and forth. Pearson and all of it's a great monopoly. All of the book companies within Pearson have aligned all of their materials, adult materials, to the Common Core agenda and ideology. The Gates Foundation, Carnegie Corporation, and Rupert Murdoch of Fox News provided over $100 million to develop the Common Core database system, which they turned over to a nonprofit corporation called In Bloom, established for the purpose of controlling information. So let's take a little look at some of what Gates has funded, and we will begin to see some ties into our own state as we go. Aspire Charter Schools, $21 million. The CCSSO, $48 million. Scholastic Publishing, yes, Scholastic, that we have our lovely festivals in schools, $4,400,000. Aspen Institute of Humanistic Studies, $3,600,000. The College Entrance Examination Board, $3 million. Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. Are these our superintendents? It's administrators, $3 million. The ASCD. And then we also have colleges abounding that took money from Gates. I'm sure they were happy to. Hillsborough County Schools, that's Tampa, Florida, they had $101,900,000. That's a chunk of change. Florida Department of Education, $5 million. New York City Department of Education, $15 million. Illinois State University, $3 million. Chicago Public Schools, $28 million. Pittsburgh Public Schools, $40 million. Green Dot Public Schools, those are charters, $20 million. Kentucky Department of Education, $15 million. Louisiana Department of Education, $9 million. And essentially all departments of education receive money from Gates. And here's our Minnesota-specific Cristo Rey Network. This is a Catholic school. We have one in Minneapolis. And they took $17 million. And please be aware of candidates that are running for various offices that are involved with some of these reforms. EdVisions, University of Minnesota Foundation, and this only goes up to 2011, 2012. I see some 2013s. Minnesota Association of School Administrators, $670,000. Minnesota Department of Children, Families, and Learning. They took that money to have, and they gave some of it to the McKinsey Foundation to write the grant for the Race to the Top. And they also took money from Gates to have the workforce, World's Best Workforce, written for Minnesota. So he was here at the beginning and then at the end to help us out. St. Paul Public Schools and the American Federation of Teachers took some money in-state. They took a lot of money nationally. The AFT took $2 million, NEA took $1 million. And with the caveat that they would use some of that money for the PTAs to make sure that the PTAs would be fully on board from within the schools. Other proponents of Common Core are the Walton Brothers, the Koch brothers, and the Broad Foundation, that's Eli Broad. These are companies that are supporting CC. You've probably seen Exxon had a commercial a while back on Common Core. All of them have, interestingly enough, received money from Bill Gates. And so all of these people up here on this list are supporting Common Core. The UF Chamber took money from Bill Gates. So you see a lot of chambers of commerce, business councils, business roundtable. Down at the bottom you can see, Rochester area, that's our Rochester, Minnesota. Traditionally, the federal government has had a limited role in education policy. The administration has sought to fundamentally shift the federal role. And Arnie Duncan said this in front of the 2010 UNESCO conference. What about costs? The cost of Common Core is seen to be $16 billion nationwide. We took a look at Wisconsin because they roughly have the same population as we do, and it would be about roughly $300 million. District funds must be funneled to testing companies and other vendors. At a time of economic crisis, this leaves fewer and fewer dollars for our classrooms. This is an open letter. This was 81% of all superintendents in New York wrote a letter to their, what is it called in New York? They have a board that governs over education in New York. But it was an open letter from teachers and principals and superintendents, 7,000. And I'm sure it has grown since when we did this, put this together. These are a few of the corporate reformers that are in the state of Minnesota, but I can tell you Students First with Michelle Rhee is leaving. They are just leaving the state now. And these are stakeholders in Common Core as well as the choice privatization movement. There's two actually movements, and we need to do more research on the choice movement. But we've got the Broad up here. Generation Next, this is R.T. Ryback's new group. Tim Pawlenty is also working with QComp. Bill and Melinda Gates. Mini Minds works with the 0 to 2 age area. That's all about home visitation, getting in and counseling you as a parent and whatnot on how to raise your kids, how to have a good relationship with your husband or wife, and that sort of thing. And then we've got MinCan, which is comes out of 50 Can, and they are involved more with the choice and charter movement. And then Broad, again up here, Eli Broad has his Superintendent's Academy, and it is said that 50% of all superintendents go through his academy. He's teaching them a business model of running a school, because that's pretty much what we're going to.